Picture this: a clean desk, a silent phone, and you locked in for a full study block without a single slip. That's not a miracle, it's a method. Over the next minutes, you'll build a focus system that survives pings, boredom, and mental noise. No fluff, no generic hacks, just clear steps grounded in how attention actually works. The promise is simple: sustained concentration on command. You'll see what to change, how to change it fast, and why it sticks when motivation dips. Think of this as training your brain like an athlete trains for performance. You'll prime your state, cut friction where it counts, design study intervals that protect your chemistry, and use quick recoveries that make the next block easier, not harder. Every part connects to the next with a hook, so your momentum never stalls. If you've tried timers and to-do lists and still drift, this system is the missing layer. Measurable environment tweaks, adaptive timing, and a live scoreboard that turns focus into a visible win. Start with one block today, then repeat. The results compound because the process is built to be repeated without willpower battles. Ready to see what real concentration feels like when the brain is set up to help you, not fight you? The zero distraction moment. We start with proof, not promises, because your brain trusts what it can verify right now. Picture a clean desk, a single open notebook, one pen, one task. A timer starts, the phone is off and out of reach, and a distraction counter sits at 0. No buzzing, no badge icons, no background tabs. Silence becomes the signal. In this first scene, you watch full focus in action for a short, uninterrupted burst. The point is not to impress you. It is to show your nervous system exactly what you're about to reproduce. When the mind sees a concrete model with a clear start and finish, it maps that state as reachable, not theoretical. That's how you shut down the inner negotiation that says, "I'll try later." You are not trying. You are replicating a protocol. The transformation promise follows immediately, and it is precise. One study block completed with zero distractions, using a method you can repeat today. The rule is simple. What you can do once on purpose, you can do again with structure. You will anchor 3 things in the first minutes: a physical cue that marks the start, an environment that removes optional friction, and a timing frame that protects attention instead of draining it. This is not about perfection or discipline myths. It is about a repeatable frame that lowers decision load so the brain can spend its energy doing the work, not wrestling with urges. Here is how the zero distraction moment actually feels. Your eyes settle on the page or screen, not scanning for anything else. Your breath smooths out and stabilizes, sending a clear message to your system that it is safe to focus. Your hands commit to a single task: reading, solving, writing, or recalling. The first minute is the most fragile, so you protect it. You do not bargain with notifications, you do not peek at another tab, you do not leave the chair. You give your brain one instruction and let it finish. Momentum takes over from there because the cost of breaking is now higher than the benefit of checking. That is strategic design, not willpower. To create this moment on command, you start with a cue that is impossible to ignore. It could be the click of the timer, the placement of the phone in another room, or the same instrumental track at a low volume that you use only for deep work. Consistency converts the cue into a switch. Once the switch flips, you reduce the world to one path. The desk is cleared to essentials. The document or textbook page is preloaded. The first action is already decided, like reading the next paragraph and underlining a single key idea, or tackling the next problem and writing the first line of working. Friction. You do not feel still exists. You remove it in advance so it cannot tax your attention when it matters. Now the counter. It is there to make progress visible. A visible distraction counter at 0 does 2 things. It makes every minute without a slip feel like a win, and it turns the act of resisting into something trackable. The brain loves evidence. When you see nothing has broken your focus, you attach pride to the behavior, not just the outcome. That pride is fuel for the next minute and the next block. If a distraction tries to enter, you do not fight it in your head. You execute a pre-written if-then rule. If an urge appears, then write it on a capture card, return to the line, and breathe once. The urge loses power when it is logged and delayed. You keep the counter at 0 and keep going. This moment is short by design because short is repeatable. The mission is not to prove you can study all day. The mission is to prove you can start clean, sustain for one defined block, and end clean. Start clean means your state, your space, and your tools are aligned before the clock moves. Sustain means your attention stays on one track without splits. End clean means you stop at the boundary, close the loop, and mark the completion. That closure matters. The brain encodes closure as satisfaction, and satisfaction drives the desire to return. If you end messy, you dread the next start. If you end clean, you crave the next start. There is one more element you add to make this unforgettable. A tiny reward that pairs with the finish. A stretch, a sip of cold water, a brief glance out a window to reset your visual field. Small, fast, and honest. This tells your system that focused effort is followed by relief, not punishment. It makes you come back. Layer that with a one-line summary of what you achieved in the block. Not a paragraph, just a sentence. What did you read, solve, or memorize? This becomes your breadcrumb trail. Each line is proof that the session moved you forward. String enough lines together and your identity shifts from someone who tries to focus into someone who focuses on demand. The zero distraction moment is the doorway to the rest of this system. Once you cross it, everything that follows becomes easier because the hardest step is done. You have already shown your brain the target state, anchored it with a cue, protected it with environment design, and reinforced it with visible proof. That is how attention becomes a habit instead of a fight. You are not hoping to concentrate. You are running a protocol. And because protocols can be repeated, you can scale from one block to many without burning out. This is your new baseline. Hold it now, and the next chapter will show you how to lock it in with a single outcome that keeps you moving without second-guessing. The one-outcome contract. Clarity beats motivation every time. So right now you set a single outcome that removes vagueness and kills procrastination at the root. One outcome, one metric, one time frame. Here is the contract. Complete one uninterrupted 40-minute study block on a clearly defined task with a visible 0 on the distraction counter and capture a one-sentence summary at the end. That is it. Not study for the exam, not finish the chapter, not be productive. Your brain commits when the target is concrete, observable, and finishable. Ambiguity keeps you negotiating, and negotiation drains focus before you start. A contract is different. It is small, measurable, and binding for the next block only. You are not promising a new life. You are executing one clean rep. Why 40 minutes? Your attention system handles a sustained bout at this length when the task is specific and the environment is built for it. Less than that, and you never reach depth. Much more than that, and drift creeps in unless you have trained up deliberately. This is a performance window, not a punishment window. Inside it, you name the task to the exact next action. Read pages 30 to 38 and extract 3 key ideas, or solve problem set 2, questions 1 to 4, or write the introduction paragraph and the first 3 topic sentences. Vague goals activate search and switching. Precise goals activate execution. You lock that in with a start line and a finish line, both visible before the timer moves. Now you define the proof. Proof is what you will point to at the end that requires no explanation. The timer shows 40 minutes run without interruption. The distraction counter remains at 0. The page has underlines and 3 bullet extractions, or the notebook shows solutions with workings, or the document shows the written paragraph and 3 topic sentences. Proof ends arguments. If you can show it, you did it. This matters because your brain forms identity around repeated evidence. Each completed contract is a vote for the identity of someone who focuses on command. The more votes, the less willpower you need to start the next block. Put the contract where you can see it, on a card in front of you, on a sticky note at the top of the page, as the first line of your document. Write it in one line, present tense, and cut out any fluff. 40 minutes, Chapter 3, pages 30-38. Extract 3 key ideas, counter at 0, one-line summary after. That line becomes your boundary object. If a thought tries to drag you into a different task, you point to the contract and return. This externalizes control. You stop debating inside your head and follow the written instruction. The more you reduce internal talk, the more attention remains available for the task itself. You also set a short pre-commitment that makes quitting expensive. Put your phone in another room. Close all tabs except the one you need. Place 1 glass of water on the desk. Open the exact page or problem set. Start with your eyes on the first line. These are not preferences. They are part of the contract. They signal to your brain that the session has started and that backtracking has a cost. If you break the conditions, you reset the block. This sounds harsh, but it is merciful. It prevents you from normalizing half focus and calling it effort. High standards make future focus easier because the rules are consistent and your brain trusts them. To secure the end of the contract, you pre-write the exit. At minute 39, you plan to finish the current sentence or step, not start a new one. At minute 40, you stop even if you feel momentum. This is counterintuitive, but it teaches your brain that you control the stop, not the urge to scroll or the sudden panic to do more. You close clean, log your one-line summary, and take a rapid reset. Ending on your terms builds confidence, and confidence reduces the anxiety that usually triggers procrastination before the next session. You will want to keep going, which is exactly the state you want to bring into the recovery window and the following block. Your contract also includes a single accountability cue. Tell one person you trust that you are doing one 40-minute block on a defined task right now, and will text them the one-line summary after. Keep it simple. You are not asking for coaching or feedback. You are creating a small social stake that nudges completion. Public promises can backfire if they are big and vague. Micro-promises work because they are immediate and binary. You either did the block as written or you did not. That binary state removes wiggle room and turns the start into a natural next step rather than a debate. You may be tempted to add more goals, more tasks, more ambition to this contract. Resist it. Overloading the contract breaks the mechanism that makes it powerful. The goal is to make the outcome feel small enough to start and meaningful enough to matter. One block, one defined task, 0 distractions, one sentence of proof. When you can do that on command, stacking becomes straightforward and safe. You will add more blocks later. For now, this is your entire job. Set the contract, read it out loud once, place it where you can see it without moving your head, and hit start. You will feel the relief that comes from finally knowing exactly what to do and exactly when you have done it. Brain state switch, from noise to focus. You do not earn focus by gritting your teeth. You switch into it by changing state on purpose. Right now, you run a 60-second sequence that tells your nervous system it is time to lock in. Sit upright with both feet flat and spine tall enough that your ribs can move freely. Place your hands on the desk to ground tactile feedback. Inhale through the nose for 4 counts. Hold for 2, exhale for 6. Repeat that cycle 5 times with a quiet, steady rhythm. This pattern tilts your physiology toward calm alertness by lengthening the exhale and smoothing respiratory variability. You are not meditating for peace. You are tuning the instrument for performance. Next, a micro-movement reset to discharge restless energy and sharpen proprioception. Roll the shoulders back twice, then pull the shoulder blades down and hold for 3 seconds. Turn your head left and right once, slow and deliberate. Open and close your hands 6 times with strong squeezes, then rest them lightly on the desk. This is minimal by design. Excess movement spikes arousal. Controlled, brief movement refreshes circulation and converts jittery energy into stable readiness. Your body is signaling to your brain. We are steady. We are anchored. We can bear down on one path. Now deploy a sensory cue that you will reserve only for deep work. Choose one of 3 options and keep it consistent. Option 1. A thin slice of scent, such as a single spray on a card you place beside the notebook. Option 2. The first 10 seconds of the same instrumental track at low volume, then fade it out. Option 3. A tactile coin or smooth stone you place under your non-dominant hand. The rule is simple. This cue appears only when you focus and disappears the moment the block ends. Repetition turns it into a switch. Over time, the cue itself will trigger the state because your brain predicts what comes next and primes attention in advance. You add a visual contraction to shrink the ambient noise in your field. Set your gaze slightly below eye level on the exact line where you will start. Keep your focal point narrow for 5 seconds, then soften the eyes while staying on the same line. Narrow focus engages task circuitry. The softening prevents strain and gives you a sense of depth without inviting the room back in. If you are on a screen, zoom in until the line sits comfortably large. If on paper, angle the page so the line is square with your chest. This is small ergonomics for big gains. Comfort reduces micro-interruptions. Micro-interruptions add up to minutes lost. Insert a cognitive trigger that tells your prefrontal cortex exactly what to do first. Whisper a 5-word command in the present tense. Read the next paragraph now. Solve question 1 now. Write the first sentence now. Keep it 5 words to keep it executable. Long commands leak into planning and invite a detour. Short commands flip the switch from thinking about work to doing it. You are taking advantage of a truth about attention. It loves the concrete and resists the abstract. When you tell it precisely what the hands and eyes will do next, it follows. Close the sequence with a single boundary action that marks the point of no return. Start the timer. As the clock moves, take one breath, place your finger under the starting line or your cursor at the first character, and begin. Do not check anything else. The first 10 seconds are where most sessions die because people add one last preparation step and open a loop they cannot close. Your rule prevents that. Your job is to move through the first sentence or the first calculation with no detours. Once you complete that micro milestone, momentum takes over and the state stabilizes. Expect a brief wave of noise in the mind as you settle. That is normal. You do not negotiate with the noise. You notice it, label it as irrelevant, and return your eyes to the exact line. If an urgent thought insists, you capture it on a small card to handle later. The act of writing it down is not a break. It is a containment strategy. Your focus is not the absence of thoughts. It is the refusal to follow them away from the task. With the capture in place, you are free to ignore the thought without fear of forgetting it. This entire switch takes about a minute. It is repeatable, portable, and requires nothing exotic. Breath to shift your physiology, micro-movement to stabilize your posture and energy, a reserved sensory cue to prime the association, visual contraction to narrow the field, a 5-word command to engage action, a boundary action to cross the threshold. From here, the work carries you. Your job is to respect the protocol and protect the first minute. When you do, focus shows up not as a surprise, but as a predictable response to a sequence you control. That predictability is the foundation for every block that follows, and it is exactly what turns studying into a skill you can trust on the days you least feel like it. Friction math, designing a distraction-proof setup. Attention is a finite resource, and friction decides where it flows. Reduce friction to the task, increase friction to distractions, and your brain will choose the path of least resistance in your favor. Start by counting taps. How many taps does it take to open the app that derails you? How many taps to resume your study task? Make the wrong path longer and the right path shorter. Remove social apps from the home screen and dock. Log out of one platform that tempts you most, so it requires a password, not a swipe. Turn off badge counts entirely. Move your phone out of arm's reach or into another room if possible. Each step adds seconds, and seconds kill impulse behavior. You are not relying on discipline. You are engineering the default. Now shorten the path to your work. Preload the exact chapter or problem set. Open only the document you will write in. Place the textbook, notebook, and pen where your hands land by habit. If digital, run a clean desktop rule. One window, one tab, full screen. Park a plain capture dock or card on the left side of the desk for stray thoughts. Find the next action inside your task and stage it on the page. For reading, highlight the first line to start. For problem solving, write the problem number and the first symbol. For writing, paste your working title at the top and put the cursor at the first character. When the clock starts, you move, not think. Neutralize the second layer of friction, sensory noise. Visual clutter is cognitive load. Clear the desk of anything unrelated to the next 40 minutes. Put away highlighters you won't use. Stack extra papers out of sight. If you study with sound, keep it low and stable without lyrics. If silence makes you restless, pick a consistent neutral track and play the same opening 10 seconds to pair it with focus, then lower it. Adjust light to eliminate glare and shadows on the page. Set the chair height so your elbows rest at 90 degrees and your feet are flat. Comfort isn't luxury here. It prevents steady trickles of irritation that pull your mind away from the work. Guard the gateway devices. Turn off Mac or Windows notifications at the system level for the study profile. Disable email and messaging badges. If your work requires the internet, use a block list that whitelists only the domains you need. If you cannot install blockers, change the friction by keeping your browser in reader mode or by using a second browser that has no saved logins for distracting sites. The goal is not absolute lockdown. It is to make unwanted actions cost enough effort that your brain rejects them in the moment. When you feel a tug to switch, the added steps create just enough space for you to remember the contract and stay. Make the friction visible with a simple on-screen or on-desk counter. Write 2 numbers at the top of your page, -3 on the left, +1 on the right. -3 is the number of taps you added to distractions today. +1 is the tap you removed from your task. For example, log out of one app, move the phone, and disable badges. That's 3 added steps. Preload the exact page and place the notebook open. That's 1 step removed. Each session, rewrite the numbers. It seems trivial, but it gives your brain the satisfaction of progress before the work begins. You're proving the setup is better than yesterday, which lowers resistance to starting. Account for environmental triggers that hijack attention without your consent. If people interrupt you, set a visible signal for Do Not Disturb, like headphones on or a card that says Focus Block until 10:20. If you study at home, negotiate a specific window with housemates or family and put it on a shared note so you don't carry social anxiety into the session. If you study in public, choose a seat with your back to the foot traffic and your eyes facing a blank wall or a window with distance, not a busy aisle. Every prevented micro-interruption shields your first minute, and the first minute shields the rest of the block. Design friction inside the device too. Turn the screen to grayscale during the block. Color rewards novelty and taps. Grayscale makes familiar icons boring enough to ignore. Hide the dock or taskbar so there are no bouncing icons in your peripheral vision. Set your timer in a position you can glance at without covering your work. If your device allows focus modes, create one named Study with a white list of apps and people who can reach you only for true emergencies. This is not anti-technology. It is pro-attention. The device becomes a tool again, not a slot machine. Use a physical tether to the task. Place one finger under the line you are reading, or rest your wrist where you write to anchor your hand. If your eyes drift, the tactile cue pulls you back without mental chatter. If you work on problems, keep the pen moving even when thinking by writing the next known step or a question mark where the gap is. Stillness often invites the mind to roam. Minimal movement holds it on track. Pair this with a no new tabs micro rule. If you need a fact, first write the exact question in your notes, then open one tab, get the fact, close the tab, return to notes. Writing the question locks the intent and prevents tab spirals. Finish the setup with a fail-safe script for urges. If you feel the itch to check, say in your head, "After this line," and mean it. Finish the line, glance at the timer, breathe once, return. Most urges lose force in 10 to 20 seconds if you do not reinforce them with action. By finishing the line, you avoid leaving the task mid-thought, which makes re-entry harder. If an urge persists for more than a minute, stand, take 3 steps away from the desk, turn around, sit back down, and resume. This resets the context without opening any digital loops. The friction of standing becomes the release valve instead of an app. When you run friction math like this, you change what effort feels like. The effort shifts from fighting yourself to arranging the world so the right thing is the easy thing. That is sustainable. That is repeatable. And it stacks with every other chapter in this system, because once the environment is tuned, your intervals work better, your recovery feels cleaner, and your scoreboard shows more wins than slips. You are no longer hoping to resist distraction. You are making distraction inconvenient and focus obvious. That is the edge you carry into your next block. Adaptive intervals, not generic timers. Timers are tools, not trophies. What matters is matching the length and intensity of a block to the cognitive load of the task and the energy you bring to it right now. Generic Pomodoro often fails because it treats every task and every brain state the same. Adaptive intervals solve that. You select the right block length based on difficulty and arousal, then protect the edges with clear start and stop rituals. The result is deeper focus, fewer crashes, and a sense of control that carries into the next session. Think of it like setting gears on a bike. You do not climb a hill in the same gear you use on a flat road. You change the gear to keep cadence smooth and sustainable. Start by rating your task on 2 scales, complexity and familiarity. Complexity is how many steps and how much working memory the task demands. Familiarity is how often you have done similar tasks recently. High complexity and low familiarity call for shorter, tighter blocks to prevent overload. Low complexity and high familiarity can support longer blocks without quality dropping. Then scan your current energy. If you feel alert and steady, choose the longer option within the safe range. If you feel dull or anxious, start shorter and focus on clean execution, not heroics. This calibration is the heart of adaptive intervals, the right effort at the right time. Use 3 block sizes as your base, 25, 33, and 45 minutes. 25 for brand new or heavy lift material that taxes recall and reasoning. 33 for moderate tasks where you can build rhythm without straining. 45 for familiar tasks where you want to compound momentum. Each block ends with a brief recovery window designed to reset your attention without scattering it. That window is 3 to 5 minutes for 25s, 5 to 7 minutes for 33s, and 7 to 9 minutes for 45s. The rule is clean start, clean stop, precise reset. No scrolling, no inbox, no conversations that open loops. Recovery is recovery, not escape. Inside each block, mark 2 micro checkpoints that prevent drift and preserve quality. The first checkpoint sits roughly 1/3 in. You glance at the timer, confirm you are still on the exact task, and either continue or course correct by rewriting the next 5-word command. The second checkpoint sits 2/3 in. You ask one question: what must be finished to call this block complete? If you cannot answer in a sentence, your task is too vague. Tighten it immediately. These checkpoints take seconds and save minutes by catching early drift before it turns into a lost block. Pair intervals with micro rewards that reinforce consistency rather than intensity. After each block, give yourself a fast, predictable reset that you actually enjoy. Stand, stretch the hip flexors, sip cold water, look at distance for 15 seconds, maybe a single deep inhale with a longer exhale to clear residue. Keep this ritual the same, short, and honest. When the brain expects relief after a clean stop, it stops fighting the stop. That makes it easier to end on time, which in turn makes it easier to start on time next round. Consistency compounds more than sporadic sprints. Build a 2-block stack for heavy work instead of one long push. For example, pair a 33 with a 25, separated by a 5-minute recovery. The first block handles setup and deep entry. The second block captures output while you are still warm. This beats a single 60 because quality tends to collapse after minute 40 without training, and restarting after a collapse is harder than continuing after a clean break. If the second block feels strained, you end early rather than forcing it. Protecting quality is the priority. Forced blocks teach your brain that focus hurts, and that belief sabotages tomorrow's start. Use adaptive stops to avoid overruns that poison the next session. If you reach the block boundary in flow, finish the sentence or step, write a 1-line note of exactly where to resume, and stop. Stopping in flow feels wrong at first, but it is strategic. It plants a clean re-entry point for the next block and keeps your dopamine response tied to completion, not to chasing more. If you hit the boundary while stuck, do not push through mindlessly. Write the obstacle in 10 words, propose one next micro-step, stop, and reset. You are teaching your brain that blocks are containers for deliberate practice, not open-ended struggles. Track block fit so you can refine without guessing. On your scoreboard, add a tiny post-block rating from 1 to 3. 1 means the block was too long for the task and energy. 2 means it was a good fit. 3 means it was too short, and you had more to give. Adjust the next block size based on the pattern, not on how you feel in the moment. Patterns beat moods. Within a week, you will know your ideal lengths for specific subjects and times of day. That knowledge eliminates a huge amount of startup friction because you stop reinventing the plan every session. If you must handle mixed work inside a block, sequence by cognitive load. Lead with the hardest subtask when your attention is freshest, then step down to lighter tasks. Do not shuffle between heavy and light repeatedly, as each switch taxes the system. If the heavy section resolves early, pivot to a prepared light task instead of stretching the heavy one to fill time. Blocks reward clarity, not volume. Ending with a clean win prevents the urge to cram more and preserves confidence for the next round. Adaptive intervals are not about being cautious. They are about being precise. You apply the right pressure at the right time to get the most learning per unit of effort without burning the circuitry you need tomorrow. When you respect the boundary, protect the recovery, and adjust the gear to the terrain, you stop fearing timers and start loving what they do for you. They make focus predictable. That predictability is the true advantage. It lets you plan a day you can actually execute, and it turns studying from a mood into a method. Cognitive recovery cues that protect the next block. Recovery is not a break from discipline. It is the mechanism that preserves the quality of your next block. You are not escaping the work. You are resetting the brain so it can produce again without grinding the gears. Treat the recovery window as a skill with 3 parts: physiology, attention, and closure. When you execute these in sequence, Fatigue drops, motivation stabilizes, and re-entry becomes frictionless. Skip them, and the next block starts heavy, scattered, and short. The difference is not subtle. It is the difference between a day that compounds and a day that unravels. Start with physiology to clear the residue of focus. Stand up immediately when the timer ends. Roll your shoulders back and down, lift your chest, and take one slow, deep inhale through the nose followed by a longer exhale through pursed lips. Step away from the desk and take 20 to 30 seconds of light movement. Walk to the door and back, perform 5 slow calf raises, or stretch the hip flexors by placing one foot behind you and leaning gently forward. This is not a workout. It is circulation plus posture reset to reverse the desk slouch and return oxygen evenly across systems. Finish with 3 sips of cold water to stimulate a mild arousal bump without a stimulant crash. You are preparing the instrument for another performance, not lounging. Shift to attention hygiene. Your eyes have been in near focus, which can fatigue visual pathways and contribute to mental fog. Look at a far point, across the room or through a window, for 15 to 20 seconds. Let peripheral vision expand, soften the forehead, and release micro-tension around the eyes. This distance view acts as a pressure valve for near-work strain and gives your brain a clean sensory contrast. If you cannot access distance, close your eyes, imagine a wide horizon, and breathe once slowly. Avoid screens during this period. The goal is to change visual mode, not swap one near focus for another. Now, protect cognitive boundaries. Do not check messages, do not open social feeds, do not read headlines. These actions inject novelty spikes that yank dopamine up and down, teaching your brain to expect a reward between blocks and making re-entry feel dull. Instead, run a capture sweep. In one line, write any thought that surfaced during the block and the simplest next step for it. If there were none, write the single next instruction for the next block anyway. This tiny behavior keeps loops closed and signals that you are still in control of the session. You are not leaving the field. You are stepping to the sideline, eyes still on the game. Seal closure to convert effort into satisfaction. Write a one-sentence summary of what you accomplished. Present tense, concrete, no qualifiers. Page 30 to 38 read, and 3 key ideas extracted. Problems 1 to 4 solved with written working. Intro paragraph and 3 topic sentences drafted. Satisfaction encodes when the brain sees a completed unit with a label. That label becomes motivation fuel for the next start. Without closure, the brain stores the block as incomplete and drags unease forward. Closure is your psychological clean desk. It empties mental RAM so the next boot is fast. Create a consistent micro-reward that never turns into a rabbit hole. A quick stretch, a breath of fresh air by an open window, a few seconds of sunlight on your face, a sip of tea. Keep it the same every time and cap it at 60 to 90 seconds for short blocks, up to 7 to 9 minutes for long ones. Consistency matters more than novelty. When your nervous system expects a small, predictable lift after honest effort, it stops negotiating for bigger rewards mid-block. You are shaping behavior with reliable reinforcement, not bribing yourself with distractions. If the last block was heavy, layer in a brief reset for posture and wrists. Shake out the hands for 5 seconds, rotate wrists, gently tilt the head side to side, then return the shoulders to a strong, low position. Ergonomics are part of cognitive recovery because physical discomfort masquerades as mental fatigue. Remove the physical friction and you remove half the excuses to drift in the next block. Check chair height and screen angle again. If your elbows are not near 90 degrees or your screen is too low, fix it now. These seconds pay back across hours. Use a re-entry ritual so the next start is automatic. When the recovery timer ends, sit, place hands, run 1 breath in for 4 and out for 6. Whisper the 5-word command for the next block and start the timer. No extra steps allowed. If you feel a pull to check something, write it on the capture card, then begin. The ritual is the bridge. When you walk it the same way each time, your brain stops testing the edges and follows the path. You reduce the startup friction to nearly zero, which is the holy grail of consistent study days. On days when energy is low, do not lengthen recovery to procrastinate. Shorten the next block instead and protect the ritual. A tired brain benefits more from a clean 25 followed by a precise reset than from a dragging 45 with a sloppy screen-filled intermission. Adaptive intervals paired with honest recovery train resilience. You learn to do high-quality work even when you are not at your best, because the system carries you. That reliability is more valuable than occasional bursts of greatness. Track recovery quality alongside block quality. After each reset, score it from 1 to 3 based on whether you followed the steps and feel ready. If the number is low, identify which piece slipped. Physiology, attention hygiene, or closure. Fix that piece next round. Do not overhaul the whole routine. Small specific corrections beat vague vows to focus more. Within a week, your recovery will feel like a groove. Within a month, it will feel like a superpower. You will notice that you finish days with energy left rather than crawling over the line. Recovery is how focus renews. Protect it, and the next block arrives strong, on time, and under your command. You are building a rhythm. Effort, reset, each cycle clean, each handoff smooth. That rhythm is what carries you through exam crunch and long projects without burnout. Respect it, and you will study longer with less strain, remember more with less rereading, and feel pride at the end of the day instead of regret. Proof of progress, the live focus. Scoreboard progress. You can see beats motivation you have to feel. A live scoreboard turns invisible effort into visible wins, and that changes behavior in real time. You are going to surface 3 metrics during every block: blocks completed, distractions resisted, and notes captured. Keep the scoreboard simple, physical if possible, and always in your line of sight without covering your work. At the top of your page, write today's date and draw 3 short columns labeled blocks. 0, notes. Every time you finish a block, add a tick under blocks. Every block that ends with the distraction counter at 0 gets a tick under 0. Every time you capture a meaningful idea, insight, or next step in your notes, add a tick under notes. You are not chasing big numbers. You are collecting evidence. Evidence builds identity, and identity drives consistency. The psychology here is straightforward. When the brain sees proof that behavior is working, it stops arguing and starts repeating. A scoreboard also narrows your attention to what actually matters for results. Blocks means time in the arena. 0 means integrity of attention. Notes means extraction of value. If you are logging time but not zeros, your setup or state needs work. If you have zeros but weak notes, your task or strategy needs tightening. The board makes diagnosis obvious. You are managing a performance, not guessing your way through a study day. Keep the act of scoring fast and satisfying. Use a thick pen or a quick stamp so each tick feels like a small reward. Make the ticks neat and aligned to prevent visual clutter from becoming its own distraction. If you are digital, create a thin banner at the top of your dock with 3 counters you increment by typing a plus sign. Resist the temptation to add colors, graphs, or extra categories. More decoration means more attention pulled away from the task. Your goal is a minimal, durable ritual that you can execute under any conditions, even when tired or stressed. Tie the scoreboard to your contract and intervals. At the start of the session, write the target: 2 blocks, 2 zeros, 3 notes. At the end, you either hit it or you did not. No judgment, just truth. If you hit it early, you can raise the target by 1 tick in the final hour. If you miss, you look for the bottleneck. Did a distraction slip through? Was the task too vague? Did recovery turn into scrolling? Did you forget to write the 5-word command for the block? The scoreboard gives you a place to ask the right question without spiraling into self-criticism. The fix is usually small and specific. The notes column deserves special care. A note is not a highlight explosion or a copy of the textbook. It is a single line that captures the essence of an idea, a step you will take, or a memory cue for recall. By scoring notes, you nudge your brain to transform exposure into understanding and action. After each block, skim your notes and mark 1 line with an asterisk as the standout. This trains selectivity and makes next day review faster. Over time, the standout lines become a compressed record of what truly moved your learning forward. Add a micro-proof element to the physical environment. Keep a small stack of index cards and drop one into a jar every time you finish a clean block with a 0. Write the date and the block's 1-line summary on the card. The jar fills. That visible accumulation turns discipline into something you can show yourself on bad days. When doubt whispers that you are not making progress, the jar disagrees. Identity is not a feeling. It is a ledger of actions. This ledger sits on your desk and tells the truth. Use the scoreboard to create momentum within a day. After the first tick under blocks, glance at the empty spot under 0 and feel the pull to earn it. After the first 0, glance at notes and extract 1 more idea before the bell. These micro-challenges keep you engaged when energy dips and prevent passive time logging. They also build a subtle narrative. You are not just doing a block, you are chasing a clean set. Sets are addictive in the best way because they bundle effort into a compact, winnable game. At the end of the session, total the ticks and read them out loud once. 3 blocks, 2 zeros, 5 notes. Then write a single sentence about what made today work or what needs adjustment tomorrow. This reflection stays inside the scoreboard, not as a diary, but as a calibration tool. If you see 2 days in a row with weak zeros, you revisit friction math. If notes are consistently low in a specific subject, you change tactics for that subject. The scoreboard becomes your coach, offering precise feedback without drama. Guard one rule: never fake a tick. If a distraction broke the block, the zero column stays blank. If a note is fluff, do not count it. Integrity is the power source here. When the board reflects reality, it earns your trust. When you trust it, you use it. When you use it, you improve. That cycle is the hidden engine of mastery. No one can gift it to you. You build it, one honest mark at a time. When you adopt the live focus scoreboard, you stop measuring days by vague impressions and start measuring by objective signals that correlate with learning. You feel progress because you can see it. You return tomorrow because you want to add to it. And when pressure rises before an exam, the board keeps you steady. It reminds you that your job is not to conquer everything at once. Your job is to win the next block, protect the zero, and pull one more idea out of the page. That is how momentum becomes inevitable. Task-state matching for exam crunch. Exam periods punish generic plans. You win by pairing the right task with the right brain state, so every minute lands where it pays the highest return. Start by mapping your daily alertness curve with brutal honesty. Identify the window when your mind feels sharpest, the middle zone where you're steady but not electric, and the late zone where energy dips. Now, assign work by cognitive load. Put deep recall and concept synthesis in the sharp window, structured practice and worked examples in the steady window, and administrative or rote tasks in the low window. This alone multiplies output because you stop forcing high-gear work into low-gear hours and burning twice the energy for half the learning. Within the sharp window, you lead with retrieval and generation, not rereading. Pull from memory before looking at the page. Write definitions, derive formulas from first principles, redraw diagrams from scratch, explain steps aloud as if teaching a beginner, and solve unseen problems cold. Retrieval is difficult by design, and that difficulty is the mechanism that strengthens memory traces. When you hit a blank, consult the source for the missing step, close it, and immediately reproduce the step from memory. You're welding the link, not admiring the answer. This is where adaptive 25s and 33s shine. Short, intense bouts that keep quality high and fatigue low. Save method drills and pattern recognition for the steady zone. Here you cement fluency and speed on problem types you already understand. Batch similar problems into sets of 3 to 5 and track accuracy and time. If you miss 2 in a row for the same reason, stop the set and do a targeted fix. Write a one-line rule that corrects the error, then restart a new mini-set with the rule at the top of the page. Keep the tempo brisk and the feedback immediate. Fluency work thrives on rhythm. You're building automaticity so scarce attention during the exam is freed for unexpected twists, not squandered on mechanics. Reserve the low zone for scaffolding and logistics that protect tomorrow's sharp window. Organize materials, create compact cheat sheets for self-testing, cue tomorrow's problem sets, print or download practice exams, tidy the desk, and preload the first task. If you must read here, skim only for structure, headings, subheadings, example locations, summary boxes. Mark where to test yourself later, rather than trying to absorb content when your brain can't encode it well. You're laying track ahead of the train, so tomorrow's start is smooth and instant. Sequence topics by interference risk. When two subjects or concepts are dangerously similar, separate them by a recovery window and a different task type. For example, study 2 similar physics chapters with retrieval in the morning and do a contrasting task like essay planning in the next block. Then return to the second physics chapter later with practice problems, not reading. This spacing reduces confusion and strengthens discriminative recall. When subjects are complementary, stack them intentionally. Derivations followed by application problems, vocabulary recall followed by reading that uses the terms, concept maps followed by teaching a friend. Reinforce links when they help you, cut adjacency when it confuses you. Design sprint days strategically, not emotionally. 2 to 3 sharp zone blocks on your hardest subject, supported by steady zone fluency blocks and low zone logistics, beats a 12-hour cram that torches sleep and memory consolidation. Mark one keystone block each day that makes the whole day a success if completed clean. Put it at the start of your best window. Protect it like an exam appointment. Phone away, door signal up, friction math in place, scoreboard ready. Keystone first, everything else after. Momentum follows the keystone. Use mode switch cues to prevent cross-contamination between task types. Retrieval mode begins with a blank page and a 5-word command like recall the steps now. Practice mode begins with a timer and a visible accuracy target. Reading mode begins with a question written at the top. What am I trying to answer? Teaching mode begins with a 2-minute out-loud explanation. Cues prime the correct circuitry and reduce wasted transitions. Without cues, the brain drifts into the easiest available mode, which is usually passive consumption. When fatigue rises but time pressure remains, deploy half blocks that preserve technique. 15 minutes retrieval, 3 minutes reset, 15 minutes practice. These are not shortcuts. They're integrity moves that respect the limit while keeping the system intact. If you feel the urge to extend a half block because it's going well, finish the current step, log a 1-line summary, and stop anyway. You are training repeatable reliability under stress. Reliability wins exams more than sporadic heroic stretches. Protect sleep like it's an exam section. Memory consolidates. During sleep stages, you cannot hack with caffeine. After evening study, run a short wind down. Dim lights, close screens, set tomorrow's keystone on paper. Breathe out longer than you breathe in for 1 minute. You are telling your nervous system the fight is over. Sacrificing sleep to cram feels productive and fails silently when recall collapses under pressure. Sharp zone mornings are built the night before. Finally, define your exam eve stack. 1 sharp zone retrieval block on the highest yield topics, 1 steady zone fluency set to keep confidence high, and 1 low zone logistics pass to pack materials and plan arrival. Close with a scoreboard reflection and a single sentence. What will I write first when the paper lands? Walking into the room with that sentence ready flips your brain into action mode on command. You've matched tasks to states for days. The exam is just another block. The open loop teaser at every chapter. End attention thrives on unfinished business. At the end of each chapter, you plant a clean, compelling open loop that pulls the mind forward without causing anxiety or fragmentation. An open loop is a precise promise or question that predicts immediate payoff in the next 30 to 40 seconds. It is not clickbait, and it is not a cliffhanger for its own sake. It is a bridge that transfers momentum from one segment to the next, so viewers never feel done until the session has delivered full value. You create the loop by identifying the single most useful next idea and naming it out loud in a way that the brain tags as necessary to complete the picture already forming. Curiosity is not random. It is the tension between what you know and what you can almost see. You engineer that tension intentionally. Here is how you craft it on command. First, find the unresolved thread in the segment you just delivered. If you taught a state switch, the unresolved thread is how to preserve it under pressure. If you designed intervals, the thread is how to stop in flow without losing it. If you built friction math, the thread is how to handle the one urge that breaks through anyway. You choose one thread, not 3. Then you phrase the loop as a direct outcome or a binary test. In the next minute, you'll learn the stop ritual that keeps momentum intact. Or, if a distraction slips through, this one line saves the block. Outcome language turns a teaser into a promise. A binary test invites a quick self-check viewers want to pass. You also seed a micro-visual cue that previews the next scene. Mention the timer in the corner that will hit 0 as you demonstrate the stop ritual. Name the single card you'll put on the desk to catch intrusive thoughts. Point to the scoreboard space where the new tick will go if they execute correctly. These are not props. They are anchors that make the next moment feel inevitable. When the brain can picture the immediate future in detail, it prefers to follow the script rather than restart a new one. Open loops fail when they are abstract or vague. They work when they are concrete and imminent. Keep the loop short enough to fit inside a breath and strong enough to be memorable. 1 sentence. Present tense, 5 to 12 seconds of audio. No hedging, no future conditional, no softeners. You are not about to try something. You are about to do something. The language of certainty stabilizes attention because it removes the option to drift. When you speak the loop, your pacing tightens, your tone lifts slightly, and your energy points forward. Then you cut. Hard cut, no filler. The brain rides the forward vector into the next segment before it can ask if it should wander. Avoid fake stakes. If the next segment does not deliver quickly on the loop, you train distrust and drop retention. Deliver the payoff inside the first 10 seconds of the next chapter, then build from there. Payoff does not have to be spectacular. It has to be crisp and useful. Show the stop ritual. Demonstrate the capture card. Place the tick on the scoreboard. Reward the curiosity you just summoned. Once the payoff lands, you can expand with context. Sequence becomes your silent editor. Loop, payoff, deepen. It feels fast and generous, which is exactly what keeps people glued. Use loops to manage energy dips you can predict. If you know minute 6 usually sags, plant a loop at minute 5 that promises a quick win viewers can execute immediately. If you know the end of a heavier concept risks fatigue, plant a loop that shifts modality. Next, the visual trick that resets your eyes and clears mental fog in under 15 seconds. Alternating cognitive modes after a loop freshens attention and avoids monotony. You are not just keeping people watching, you are designing a better cognitive experience. For live study sessions, open loops double as behavioral cues. In the next block, watch the counter and aim for your first 0. Or, before the timer starts again, write the 5-word command you'll follow. The loop primes action, not just interest. You are turning the audience into participants who are already moving when the next chapter begins. The sense of being in motion is the antidote to passive viewing and the secret to higher completion rates. Measure loop quality with a simple check. Can you say the loop in one breath? Can a viewer repeat it? And does the next segment answer it inside 10 seconds? If the answer is no to any piece, rewrite it. Great loops feel obvious after you hear them. They are the missing screw you point to under the hood that makes the whole machine run smoother. When you get them right, chapters snap together into a single continuous experience. That continuity eliminates the micro decisions that usually lead to clicks away or backgrounding the video. Fewer decisions, more attention, better learning. Stack a final loop that points beyond the video into the larger journey. As you approach the conclusion, preview the focused playlist or challenge that continues the system. You are not dangling mystery for drama, you are showing the next necessary step for someone who wants durable focus, not a one-off good day. This is honest momentum, and it respects the viewer's time. Deliver value, open one essential loop, then keep your promise immediately. Do this chapter after chapter, and the audience does not feel pushed. They feel carried. That feeling is why they stay, learn, and act. Session depth by design. A single great video is valuable, but a design session multiplies impact. Session depth means guiding attention from one focused block to the next with purpose, so each minute compounds instead of dissipating. You do this by turning your content into a sequence with clear handoffs rather than isolated moments. Begin by defining the arc for today. What is the keystone result this viewer should achieve by the end of their watching and working time? Embed that outcome in the structure of your chapters, then engineer the pathway that keeps them moving. Cards, end screens, pinned comment, and a live prompt that cues action between chapters. You are not chasing views, you are building a study session that finishes strong. Place your first card at the earliest moment a viewer can act without confusion. If the chapter on friction math lands a win in minute 3, surface a card that points to a short, tightly related tutorial on setting up a whitelist browser or a distraction-free reading mode. The key is proximity and relevance. Cards work when they feel like the next obvious click to support what the viewer just learned. Avoid stacking multiple cards back to back. One well-timed card outperforms a cluster that forces choices and induces hesitation. You are removing decisions, not adding them. Design end screens as bridges, not billboards. Each end screen should present 2 options at most: the next chapter in a playlist that continues the system, and a single complimentary deep dive for viewers who need more help on the last pain point. Keep the titles transformation-focused and consistent with how the chapter framed the problem. The visual language should match the video they just watched, so the transition feels seamless rather than like a different universe. When the end screen appears, your narration should explicitly name the choice. Start the 7-day focus sprint now, or go deeper on adaptive intervals if your blocks keep collapsing. Clear lines move attention forward. use the pinned comment as the session command center. Place the checklist, the contract template, and the one-line prompt for the next block right at the top. Invite a micro-reply that doubles as accountability. Post your one-sentence summary after your first block. The pinned comment becomes a living space where viewers return during the session, not a static note they ignore. When they comment with their summary, they cross a threshold from watching to doing. That simple public act increases the odds they finish the next block. Social proof accumulates underneath as others post their summaries, creating a virtuous loop. Sequence your playlist for cognitive flow. Start with the shortest, highest leverage wins that reduce friction and generate an early sense of efficacy. Follow with the techniques that require more explanation once the viewer trusts the process. Avoid whiplash shifts in modality. Do not jump from dense theory to dense theory. Alternate between learn-then-do patterns, a concept followed by a guided block, a setup followed by a demonstration, a tool followed by an application. Every video in the sequence should contain a tiny start cue so a viewer can put it down and work without searching for instructions. Think of the playlist as a conveyor belt, smooth, predictable, and carrying the learner forward with minimal effort. Embed live prompts in narration to turn viewing into action. At the end of key chapters, say exactly what to do now and how long it will take. Set a 25-minute block and write your 5-word command. When your timer ends, post your one-line summary below. This call does not ask for likes or subscriptions. It asks for behavior that strengthens the system. When viewers act inside the viewing window, they tie the content to their real life, and that bond holds. Once the behavior is installed, the algorithm takes care of distribution, because watch time and satisfaction rise naturally. Measure session depth with simple, observable signals you can influence. Track percentage of viewers who click a card, the end screen CTR to the next video, average playlist progress before drop-off, and the number of comments that include a one-sentence summary. Then adjust placement and language. If the first card underperforms, move it to the moment you solve the first micro-problem. If end screen CTR is weak, tighten the on-screen promise and align the thumbnail with the chapter's final frame. If comments lag, simplify the prompt and pin a fresh template. Treat session depth like you treat focus. Design, test, refine. Keep the energy continuous across the session with pacing that breathes. Tighten openings, remove lingering outros, avoid jokes or tangents that steal the forward vector, and let brief silence emphasize transitions. Silence used well acts like white space on a page, guiding the eye to the next line. Time your music stings to the card appearance or the on-screen checklist so they mark action rather than distract. Everything on the screen should either educate, instruct, or move the viewer toward the next block. Anything else is noise you can cut. Finally, align your publishing cadence with the session architecture. Release related videos in clusters that form a self-contained sprint: setup, execution, recovery, troubleshooting. Announce the sprint in the first video and link the full set everywhere the viewer might look. This makes it easier for new viewers to step into a complete journey without hunting. The result is more viewers finishing multiple videos, more people doing the work as they watch, and more lasting change. Session depth by design turns a good video into a system people can live inside. It respects attention, honors time, and earns trust. Rapid recap, micro win. Recap is not repetition. It is compression that locks learning and propels action. You close the loop on everything covered so far in a tight, satisfying sweep that makes the next step feel obvious. Start by naming the 3 non-negotiables you executed today in clean, present-tense language. You primed your brain state on purpose. You engineered friction, so the right action was the easy action. You matched interval length to task load and energy. Keep the cadence brisk and confident. You are not reteaching. You are reminding the nervous system what success feels like so it will seek that feeling again. This breathing space gives your mind the signal that a unit has ended and a new one can begin without resistance. Now, deliver the micro win. Set a 60-second timer and do one action that consolidates value right now. Write a one-line summary of what you achieved in the last block. If you did not complete a block yet, write the 5-word command for the next one and place your finger on the starting line or your cursor at the first character. That single gesture is the smallest honest unit of momentum. It turns intention into motion and motion into identity. The goal is not to feel ready. The goal is to be moving when readiness catches up. You will feel a small surge of clarity when the line is on the page and the next action is visible. That sensation is the reward loop you want to reinforce. Use this window to calibrate without drama. Ask 3 quick questions and answer each in a sentence. What helped me focus most today? What pulled me off track? What will I change in the next block? The answers stay small and actionable. Move the phone farther. Shorten the block by 8 minutes. Write the first symbol before starting the timer. These micro adjustments compound into days that feel lighter and produce more. Do not write essays. Do not philosophize. The recap is a steering correction at cruising speed, not a pit stop for a full rebuild. Anchor the recap in your scoreboard so it becomes part of the ritual you trust. Add your ticks for blocks, 0, and notes. Read the totals out loud. Hearing the numbers engages a different channel of reinforcement than seeing them alone. If a number is lower than expected, name the single fix you will apply in the next session and move on. If the numbers are strong, resist the urge to raise the bar immediately. Consistency beats spikes. You are building a base that will carry you through exam crunch and long projects without collapsing under pressure. Protect the psychological hygiene of this moment. No inbox, no news, no feeds. The recap is a clean room for clarity and commitment. Introduce novelty here, and you will dilute the memory of success with noise. Keep the environment quiet, the language precise, and the tempo steady. If you study with others, invite them to share their one-line summaries in a shared thread after they complete their minute. Social proof strengthens the habit without dragging you into comparison or chatter. Everyone posts one line and returns to work. That is the culture you are building around your study time. End the recap with a forward-leaning line that acts like a mental bookmark. Write the first words you will speak to yourself when the next timer starts. Read the next paragraph now. Solve question 5 now. Draft the topic sentence now. Place that line at the top of the page or the document. When you return, there is no ramp, only a runway. The brain loves instructions it can follow without thinking. You are designing that experience on purpose because it is the difference between stalling and launching. This chapter exists to make the next chapter inevitable. You have compressed the day's value into memory, created an instant win, tuned your plan by a notch, and set a visible starting point. The result is a mind that feels finished enough to rest and prepared enough to re-enter without friction. That combination is rare and powerful. It prevents the evening spiral of regret and the morning dread of restarting. You are closing the present block cleanly and opening a door to the next one with confidence. Take the minute now. Write the line. Feel the click of control. Then step through. Impact close. The focus challenge. This is where knowledge turns into a habit you can trust. You are about to run a simple, high-integrity test that cements everything you learned into your week. The 7-day focus sprint is straightforward. Each day, you complete one keystone block with a 0 on the distraction counter, log a 1-sentence summary, and stack optional blocks only after the keystone is clean. The sprint is not about proving endurance. It is about proving reliability under real life. When the week ends, you will hold 7 cards, each with a date, a task, a 0, and a line of proof. That stack is your new identity in your own handwriting. Here is your protocol. Choose a consistent start time that respects your sharpest alertness window. 10 minutes before that time, run the brain state switch exactly as taught. Breath cadence, micro movement, single sensory cue, visual contraction, 5-word command, boundary action. 2 minutes before the start time, run friction math. Phone out of reach, 1 tab, 1 document, chair and screen aligned, timer visible, capture card on the left. At the start time, read your 1 outcome contract and hit start. 40 minutes for most tasks, 25 if the material is brand new and heavy, 33 if rhythm matters more than strain. End clean, never pass the bell, log your line, add your ticks to the scoreboard. Do not chase more until the keystone is complete. Each day, pick one terrain to test. Noise from the environment, low mood, a tight schedule, or a tough topic. You are not avoiding difficulty. You are training through it with precision. On noisy days, double down on friction math and tighten recovery. On low-energy days, shrink the block and keep the ritual perfect. On tight days, treat the keystone as non-negotiable and let lesser tasks go. On tough topics, choose the shorter block and emphasize retrieval over rereading. The goal is not to feel heroic. The goal is to finish clean so your brain learns that conditions do not decide for you. The protocol does. Build a public micro-accountability that is small enough to repeat. Tell one trusted person your daily start time and send them your one-line summary after the block. No explanations, no apologies, no extra commentary. Identity is built by binary acts. Did you keep the promise today or not? You either send the line or you do not. If you miss a day, resume the next day without trying to make up 2 blocks. Compensating doubles the load and invites collapse. Consistency beats compensation. 7 clean reps will change more than 14 messy ones. Track only what matters. In your scoreboard, you will log 7 keystone ticks, aim for 7 zeros, and collect at least 7 meaningful notes across the week. Anything beyond that is a bonus, not a requirement. If you hit your keystone early on a day, you can stack 1 more block using adaptive intervals. If you hit the keystone late, you end and protect sleep to preserve tomorrow's sharp window. The sprint respects biology because biology wins the long game. You cannot pour from an empty nervous system and expect recall to hold under exam pressure. Set your environment for visible proof. Place a clear jar on your desk. After each keystone, write the date and the one-line summary on an index card and drop it in. Watch the pile grow. This is not decoration. It is your ledger of effort. On day 3, when motivation fades, you look at the jar and realize you do not want to break the chain. On day 6, when doubt whispers that today's block was small, the jar reminds you that small is the point. Small and done beats big and imagined. By the end of the week, the jar becomes a story you can show yourself and anyone who asks how you built your concentration. Recruit your future self. Each evening, write the first words you will say at tomorrow's start. Read the next paragraph now. Solve question 1 now. Draft the topic sentence now. Place that line at the top of the page or document before you sleep. This reduces morning friction to nearly 0 because you are not deciding what to do. You are obeying a clear instruction written by a version of you who already did the hard thinking. The shortest path to reliability is removing decisions at the edges and letting the center take care of itself. Anticipate failure points and pre-solve them. If mornings implode, move the keystone to the first stable hour you can actually protect. If interruptions are guaranteed, post a visible Do Not Disturb signal and negotiate a window in writing with the people who need to know. If your space is chaotic, build a portable focus kit. Noise-reducing headphones, a timer, a capture card, a pen you like, and a small object that serves as your tactile cue. Nothing fancy, everything reliable. The sprint succeeds when starting feels obvious and stopping feels satisfying. Close the sprint with a debrief you can complete in 5 minutes. Lay out the 7 cards and read each line aloud. Add up your blocks, zeros, and notes. Write 3 sentences. What worked? What failed? What I will keep. Then choose your next 7-day window and schedule it. Success loves a sequel that starts while the pride is fresh. Do not wait for a perfect week. There are none. Start the next one and keep your standards tight. Every iteration makes the protocol smoother and your identity stronger. You came here to learn how to study with full concentration. You built the state switch, tuned the environment, matched intervals to the work, protected recovery, measured what matters, and designed the journey. Now you give yourself the gift of proof. 7 days, 7 zeros on the keystone, 7 lines in the jar. When someone asks how you focus so well, you will say the quiet truth. It is not magic. It is a method, and you can run it any day you choose.